Hello everyone. The subject of discussion today is business law. Now remember, whenever you are starting this important subject of business law, the first and the foremost topic that should be taken care of is Indian Contract Act 1872. Right? So it's the most important contract of business law. And when you start this topic, you should always go through essentials of a contract with respect to offer and acceptance. So these are some concepts which I am mentioning. You should not leave these topics. These are very, very important topics. Offer and acceptance. Then indemnity and guarantee, bailment and pledge. So while you are studying Indian Contract Act, you should always go through these concepts as well as the essentials of a contract, right? Valid contract, then offer and acceptance, bailment and pledge, indemnity and guarantee. So that's the first one, Indian Contract Act 1872. Next, second is Partnership Act, where you should go through types of partners, doctrine of implied authority, that's an important one, and registration and dissolution of firms. So while you are studying, you must pay attention to these concepts of doctrine of implied authority, then registration and dissolution of firms. So that's the second one. Then next is Companies Act. Now Companies Act is also one of the most formidable acts where you should go through the formation of a company, kinds of companies, right? Formation of a company, then kinds of companies, and after that studying various types of companies, you must go through the memorandum and articles of association. So memorandum and articles of association is a must while studying Indian Companies Act. So in Companies Act, you got formation of a company, the formalities that are needed, the kinds of companies, and memorandum and articles of association, right? After that, after Indian Contract Act, then Partnership Act, then Companies Act, the next comes Negotiable Instruments Act. Now when you are studying Negotiable Instrument Act, you should always take into account the various important negotiable instruments like promissory notes, bills of exchange, checks, cross checks. तो जब भी आप स्टार्ट करें नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट एक्ट, तो आपका फोकस रहना चाहिए बिल्स ऑफ एक्सचेंज के ऊपर, प्रॉमिसरी नोट्स के ऊपर, देन चेक्स, क्रॉस चेक्स, right? So that's the fourth one, Negotiable Instruments Act. Next comes the fifth one, Consumer Protection Act, where you should go through the essentials of Consumer Protection Act, the rights of a consumer and the redressal machinery described in this act, right? Rights of the consumers and the redressal machinery, right? So that's in Consumer Protection Act. Then you've got Sales of Goods Act. Now in Sales of Goods Act, you should always go through essentials of valid sales along with conditions and warranties, right? So the Sales of Goods Act, it's not as vast as compared to Contract Act or Companies Act, but again this topic should not be left out, and you should always go through the warranties, the conditions and warranties, the essentials of Sales of Goods Act, right? Next is Information Technology Act, where the most important topics are electronic governance, digital certificates. Now digital signature certificates are gaining very importance nowadays, as well as the digital signatures, which are very essential while filing the records as far as a company is concerned. So in Information Technology Act, I repeat, you should always go through electronic governance, digital signature certificates, and transfer of digital records, right? So transfer of digital records is a must as far as IT Act is concerned. And finally, Consumer Protection Act. Now you should always go through prevention and waste management in Environment Protection Act, right? I repeat, it's an you should always go through Environment Protection Act, and in Environment Protection Act you should always go through prevention and waste management, right? So these are the most important topics of law, although it's a very vast subject, but these are some of the key points which should not be left out. They should always be taken care of while revising this important subject of business law, right? All the best.